Fairfax Community Church. And on this lovely August 1st, here we are, another month of 2021, which is really remarkable to me. I think what I'd like to do is get our sacred candles lit so we have that in order. So I'm going to step out of the frame and get my little lighter. Just a lovely way to remind ourselves of the spirit and what we are about to embark on today, to center ourselves and go a little bit deeper. All right. I'm going to read the call to worship. This is by John Philip Newell. In the beginning, O God, when the firm earth emerged from the waters of life, you saw that it was good. The fertile ground was moist and the seed was strong, and earth's profusion of color and scent was born. Awaken my senses this day to the goodness that still stems from Eden. Awaken my senses to the goodness that can still spring forth in me and all that has life. I believe we're now moving into our opening chant. Thank you, Gabe. All right. I'd like to begin the prayers of the people. And as we all know, the share goes that we just share what's in our hearts, lift it up, and at the end of it say, God, in your mercy, hear our prayer, or some equally profound thing. So.
Prayers for Jim and myself, we've had to cancel our vacation until we find out what's happening with my heart. My doctor's on vacation, so we have to wait till she returns. I will have a nuclear stress test on Wednesday, and then we have to wait for the results. So we're just we postponed it last year because of COVID, and we'll postpone it again. And that's just the things that happen as we grow older. You know, I have to accept these things. I'm 73. God, in your grace, you hear our prayers.
You hear our prayers.
I pray for all of us, especially for those who are being stressed by this renewal of COVID issues and the new variant. And may we all find ways to be patient. May we all find ways to be safe and to help support our public health workers. So, God, in your grace, please hear my prayer.
God, I pray for all those affected by the fires right now. There's just so much of that going on in California, and that with the drought, it feels very despairing and very hard. And I get a sense that there's no abundance anymore. There's just scarcity. So God, allow me to see the abundance. Because you can also live in that. Sometimes in my despair, I look at other people and I think, how can they even enjoy life? It's so hard right now. You know, as if we all have to do penance in order to keep the sky up. What if I just enjoy the green in my garden and the sunshine of this morning and the fellowship of this wonderful crew? What if I dwelt in that abundance, God? Allow me to do so in your grace. Hear our prayer.
Gracious and loving divine presence, please help me to live with the limitations that have come up with the constant flow of this medical problem and that medical problem, and now I have a tooth that may need to be removed. And help me when I have my times of despair and exhaustion to be able to just let myself experience that and to pray and to take whatever the next step is and to reach out to friends for support. And I expand this prayer for all who are in that position of having unknown, just lots of medical issues, and as well as all of that's going on with the COVID pandemic. And I ask that we be graced with wisdom in the choices that we make regarding the pandemic as things shift once again towards in the direction of more caution rather than less. In your many names, God, in your grace, you hear our prayers.
Holy One, life infused with Christ consciousness, may I be awake to the beauty and joy and abundance in this moment. And may my loved ones be protected as Theo is rock climbing in Yosemite, as Gabe is getting his wisdom teeth out and going back to college. And may all of us, with our concerns for our loved ones and for our own health and the health and safety of our earth and our beautiful state of California, may all of us find peace and strength and rest in your peace and love. God, in your grace, you hear our prayers.
Does anyone else like to share? Okay, we will. Oh, go Manouche, go Manouche.
Where should I go? Where should I go? God, tell me.
I'm not sure, but
Go
you can go.
within. Go to the source within where the joy is and the peace is, when we trust that God is holding us in the best place possible we can ever be. I want to share my gratitude, express my gratitude for even through the hardships that are daily showing up for each one of us and all of us. There is this flow of love always there when I become aware of it, because I put my attention there. When I just open my heart to that flow that comes into me and throughout me. And so gratitude for that love, that flow of love. And may it be so for everyone to be in connection with that flow. God, you do a great job. Thank you.
Hear our prayer.
And you hear our prayers.
I'd like to make an additional prayer of gratitude for our church's commitment to the food pantry and the food bank deliveries that we get every week. I am so grateful to have the opportunity to serve, but also I see the critical nature of that work. And God, what I see within that work is your love made manifest. And the guy that I work with that I've just met recently, Sydney, I kind of was saying, why do you do this? And he says, it's out of love. And I thought, well, wow, you just hit the truth, didn't you? Because every week I go there with an open heart and a loving heart. And no matter how, difficult it is, God, I see that love and I am so nourished by it. So God, continue to bless our sturdy little crew. May we have adequate health. We certainly have a lot of food to hand out, and may we do it in the best way possible. In your many names, God, in your grace. our prayer. I'm going to say the prayer of Jesus. It's a Fred F. Kipe translation. Indwelling God, infused throughout all existence, we honor you with many names. Your realm is within the human heart. We accept life for all it can be on earth as throughout all creation. May we continue to draw sustenance from this earth, and may we receive forgiveness as we forgive others. May we ever move from separation towards union to live in grace with love in our hearts forever and ever. Amen. Would somebody like to sing the Shema? Any takers? I can't even see all of you, so if anyone's out there, just chime in.
Dean is raising his hand.
Oh, thank you, Ruth, because I can only see so many of you.
I couldn't get it to unmute.
Oh dear. Well, that's wonderful. We have Dean for the Shema, who would like to read the first text. Thank you, Casey. And the second text, the poem. Thanks, Ruth. All right, we will do our Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
The Tao can't be perceived. Smaller than an electron, it contains uncountable galaxies. If powerful men and women could remain in the Tao, all things would be in harmony. The world would become a paradise. All people would be at peace, and the law would be written in their hearts. When you have names and forms, know that they are provisional. When you have institutions, know where their functions should end. Knowing when to stop, you can avoid any danger. All things end in the Tao as rivers flow into the sea.
Bedrock by Norma Jean Warner. The pebbles lie about in great profusion. Their muted colors brighten with the surf. I grab them eagerly to feel their smoothness, to heft them one against the other. Some I keep for quite a while, clinging to their tactile substance. Then, one by one, I loosen each and let it fall. It is not what I seek, not the true bedrock after all. But never once do I doubt that the bedrock is there, deep within my own being.
Thank you, everyone. We are now going to turn to our sermon video for this Sunday. It is on spiritual surrender with Pat McCabe, who is also known as Woman Stands Shinning by the Lakota people. So after this, we will respond to it, but we will have a video, and I think Kimberly was looking forward for us to see it.
Good day to all of you. It's really an honor and a privilege to welcome Oyakpa Najiwin, or Pat McCabe, back into our fold after her wonderful contributions at the SDI conference just 2 weeks ago. And Oyakpa Najiwin is, she's a mother, a grandmother, a spiritual companion, an activist, an artist, a writer, author, ceremonial leader, and a speaker. And really, I would say a voice, not just for peace, but an embodiment of love in the world. And just, every time I have the opportunity to engage with her, I feel better, and I hope that all of you will as well. So this 4-part series, my role is simply to be Pat's teaching assistant, so you probably won't hear very much from me at all, except for this introduction and some administrative announcements. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Pat to start us off today. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Reverend Seifu. I want to say greetings, good morning, and so we said good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Really, really honored to see all your faces here today, and that you that we can come together and consider this very profound topic. No matter which angle you come at it from, it's a deep one. And so I'll just say that, I come from Dene Nation. And so in that way, I'll give you our formal greeting. Say, She'e'iya, Tachi Inishli, Aro Ashi Ibashichi, Madishkeshne Dashanale, Klauschi Daushiche, Quetawastari Nishli. So I'm telling you about my clans. We get our clans from our mothers. And I'm actually here at my mama's house. We're in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And she's 97 years old, and so we're looking out for each other over here, and we have been for this year plus. And she's doing well, so so that's happy over here. And then I was also adopted. Well, good day. Good day to each one. So we are convened and called together to talk about, I'm going to call it the spiritual act of surrender. And what I wanted to ask us to consider here is that word. So I'm just going to ask you to close your eyes for a second. And let's take a deep breath. There, well, maybe we'll do it all together now. Maybe one more. And one more. So I'm going to speak that word again here, and I'm going to ask you to just feel into what arises with that word for you. What arises when that word surrender comes? Surrender. Surrender. So you can open your eyes again. So oftentimes in my talks, I refer to the power over paradigm, or modern world paradigm. And so in that paradigm, I say that to really be successful in that paradigm, you need to be able to beat out somebody else. You have to beat out somebody else to have what you need. I mean, that is the setup. It's very, very difficult to avoid doing that and be successful in that paradigm. So it's not a paradigm that is conducive to cooperation or collaboration. And it drives us to be very, very individualistic, to really prize our individual strength, personality, and also our ability to overcome the difficulties of such a paradigm, and sometimes overtly and sometimes covertly overcoming our fellows who are also in that paradigm. And so, when I think about the systems that we get channeled into in that paradigm. So we start out, even as we're born, if we're born in a hospital, depending on how long ago it was quite regimented. Even certainly when I was born in an Indian Health Service hospital in Gallup, New Mexico. And it was very regimented. And I think right from the moment of arriving on Earth in such a situation, it is presented to us that our consent and our volition is really not that important here, because we're not immediately given to our mothers. We have to be washed, we have to be weighed, we have to be measured, we have to maybe get a shot. All these things have to happen because that serves the system. It doesn't serve the baby, it doesn't serve the mama, but it serves the system. And so we are taught from the very moment we arrive that this system is what matters. And then we get sent to school, and then we get sent to, so I'm just looking at all the different systems. And then we get plugged into wage earning and that economy. And so I'm just thinking about how important it is to feel in control in this paradigm. And I'm also thinking especially about how important it is to persevere in that system. So, I mean, that, and I'll say for this nation state that has been overlaid over many other nations here in what we now call the United States, this is what we stated as the American dream, in fact, to overcome all obstacles, no matter what. And so this is a mindset that has been cultivated so deeply in modern world paradigm, not only here in this nation, but in so many nations. And so I just ask us to consider for a moment, what, so this way is going on all around us. So here I am walking with this way of this sacred pipe. And it is, it's a good thing the ceremony is so powerful because it really has to withstand a lot of input from all directions, from media, from movies, but also in my wallet and in my home, in this lamp that I turn on, in this computer that I have. Everything is heading a different direction than that way, it seems like to me. So I have to persevere also in that. And I will also say that, as an Indigenous woman, honestly, the plan was that I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be alive. That was the plan for me and my people. So there is a profound sense of the need to persevere also in my culture. That I will not be the one to complete the genocide. I have this adamant way. I will not be the one to complete the genocide. So I'm just asking us to before we even launch into too much around this subject, I just want us to consider what that word means in such a place. What does it mean when we raise that word surrender in that place? So I'm going to ask us to, we're going to do a little breakout here. And I think, let's see, we'll go ahead and do groups of 4. And I just ask you to take a few minutes each, 4 minutes each or so, to just talk a little bit about surrender in this context. And I would also ask you to maybe consider somehow I muted. Hopefully you were hearing all that.
Sorry, somehow you got muted. I don't know how that happened. Can you repeat that? Yeah.
So I'm gonna, I don't know where I got muted at. I was talking about going into breakout groups.
Mhm.
Did we hear that part?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna break out into groups of 4. And in those groups, I'm gonna ask you to say a few words, just in your own experience. Each take about 4 minutes or maybe 3 or 4 minutes. We're gonna break out for 15 minutes and we're gonna try to have 4 people in a group. And just talk a little bit about what that word means in this context. Anything that you were told that about that word surrender in this context, and in the context of persevering and overcoming, and also any sayings that you know of that we have around surrender. So obviously I'm sort of leading us into this place of considering sort of the negatives around that word surrender. Because I think that it's hard for that not to sit inside each one of us. And then if you want to move on to, you know, maybe what are some of the positives around that word surrender that you're aware of at this moment. But I really want to look at what does it mean in this context. And so I'm going to ask each group to have a recorder or a note taker a little bit. You don't have to capture every word. We're kind of looking for themes here. And
I guess this is our breakout room.
So
We'll surrender
thing
to, go ahead.
I think the thing I expected was kind of her backstory, which is that she fully expected her house to be washed away in this dreadful flood, and she was accepting of that. And somehow, I don't know if she was standing at the house or if she was gone by then, but apparently the waters parted and spared her house. And that's something that she became kind of well known for. And I was kind of hoping to hear that story, actually. But she certainly made me ponder just the dynamic of what we encounter in that we have a system that doesn't account for our spirits. And I have to always be mindful of that. I think this is what Fairfax Community Church really does for me, is ground me in the spirit, because right now the day-to-day is tough, boy, you know. And yet I look at someone like her, a native who was subjected to very active genocide, and I think, well, you know, I'm on the other side of that system, so maybe I need to just be mindful of how much worse it is for people that white folks have been busy oppressing since the beginning of our country. It always strikes me how funny folks get in denialism about our native population. Of course, America was founded on murder and genocide. How do you think we got these lands? We settled them. We got rid of native people actively. We shot them. We obliterated them. We tried. And they're still here. I stand on the lands of the Coast Miwok, who are still here. I have such abundance at their expense. So I don't want to surrender to the status quo. It's like I want to surrender just letting whatever happens, and being in that surrender, I think comes some grounding. She's basically saying there's only this, well, I'm going back to Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, and Joanne, you were in that group, and where he says there's only the struggle. And he's not a very religious man. And people were kind of struck by that, but she is in this essence saying the same thing. She said, here we are. Our reality is, as natives, is that we have a dreadful struggle just to survive. We're actively trying to harm native people. So I just have to look at that system, find where I'm complicit, surrender all of my fear, and move forward with what I can do. And that's where I do find that service, like food bank for me, is a place to start, to very, very directly in your community, surrender the fear, accept the energy and the spirit of love. That love gives us energy to move out.
Yes.
So thank you.
Well, surrender for me, because I'm had to surrender to, at the age of 35, that I was an addict. And I fought tooth and nail, and I was not. And there's just something about getting to that place where I surrendered, that I could begin to change my life. I could begin to love who I was and to change my actions. And it is only with surrender. And I hate the word, believe me, it's come up time and time again. We had to surrender to not being able to go on our trip. And it's always a bitch to surrender, but every time it presents itself in my life, there is this there is this place of that I can now begin to build something new. And it's a beautiful place, but I'm telling you, I will fight tooth and nail to not be in that place. Thanks.
Thank you, Joanne.
I also have some of that, but I wanted to go back to her question just a little bit. Kind of the negative side of, not of surrender, but of our paradigm, and how we've taken over, and how capitalism has infused our thinking.
Yeah.
To the point of referring to workers as production units. That's the one that really got me. In the vast scope of the giant corporation, we have 40,000 production units. And it's just kind of crazy that we can give up humanity to that extent for something that is built purely on capitalism. It requires adversity, that it requires that you could be competitive.
Mhm.
And the sports in our schools are to help develop competitiveness. They call it honoring building strength of character, but it also reinforces competitiveness heavily.
Mhm.
Our schools, just in the nature of our schools, I haven't been part of the school system since I was in college, so I'm not speaking about today, and that's probably a mistake, but I was affronted by school. I really disliked the school system because you could see it. You learn your math, you learn this, you learn that, so that you can be a functioning member of this society. And there isn't that sense of an individual's spirit of what leads an individual and what may be right for people.
Yes.
So that's where I came from. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, Dean. I think you really, what came up for me when you were speaking was my experience, my brief experience of a few years' time as a supervisor. And I worked in a wonderful nonprofit. I worked at Hospice by the Bay. It's a wonderful nonprofit. It's very, very good agency. But when I got into management and began to sit in those rooms, and it was literally, management was upstairs and all the staff were downstairs. So it was like ascending to heaven. You could go up to this place where it was so spacious. There weren't any cubbies. It was, everyone had space. It was like a complete 180 from what we were doing in our little rabbit warren. And the thing that struck me so hard and continued to was how the emphasis shifted into humans as resources. Human resources is like HR is actually kind of an evil entity, because they were really just saying, you are a resource to us, and we want to try and keep that resource as squared away as possible. But they're not doing it. They're not checking in on your spirit. I mean, I got 3 free therapy visits a year, so that was the extent of our support. But I think I struggled greatly and finally left management because humans as resources was anathema to me. I could not deal with that. And I spent a lot of time advocating for my team. And if I have anything to be proud of, it's that I did consider their spirits, and I did advocate for them when they had needs, and I did support them in that very difficult framework. So I understand, Dean. I also had a learning disabled kid that went through school, and I understood the randomness of the academic system. So there are all these external systems, the capitalism, the organized religion, the schools, they're all things that if you just tie into them, you don't have to think too hard. But this is, again, why it's important for me to cultivate spirit and to realize that there's something larger, different, better, a way of just even seeing things. So, thank you. I don't have to look at humans as resources anymore. I'm thankful.
For me, to answer her question about what comes up for you when I was listening to her say, surrender, surrender. the first feeling that came up for me was actually a sense of relief, because I know from my own experience, when I can finally stop fighting whatever it is, there's this feeling of great relief. And I think about it as realizing without surrender, I am trying to do something that's actually impossible. I am trying to make reality not be reality. I am trying to say, this can't be, this is too awful. Either something from me personally or how the world is. And it has really been important for me in looking at all of this. And I listened to a interview that someone was doing with a person who won a silver medal in the Olympics for something. And he kept saying, oh, you must be so disappointed you didn't get the gold. And she said, no, I'm celebrating. I won a silver medal in the Olympics. This is fantastic. And it was just interesting to see that clash of perspectives, because she was just like, hey, you know, this is great. How many people get to do that? And the other part for me is to be very careful to recognize this capacity is within all of us, and that it isn't us and them, that I have within me the capacity to be hierarchical, patriarchal, entitled, all of that. And that is the culture we live in. And I just see it more as we are all struggling with levels of ignorance, of not so many people do not know there is another way, and they're caught in it. I listen to my clients and what they are caught in, and you can see, and there are times, you know, I woke up this morning in not a good place at all. And to know and to be grateful that I know some things I can do that help me shift from that place.
Right.
And it's that for me is such a saving grace. I can pray, I can talk to somebody, I can read things that are inspiring to me. I, you know, can have my regular practices of meditation and being able to look with someone I was talking to used the phrase generosity of heart. And I just thought that was a lovely phrase, to look at everyone and everything with generosity of heart. And then for me, that's where the abundance comes from, is our perspective and our intention in what we do. And not see it as a war, not see it as have to fight against things, but to be able to move into that place where everyone is welcomed without giving up my own values and my own actions that I need to take, and be of service, like mostly to my clients these days, and my family, and to accept my own limitations, and this feeling of surrender, that there's a part of me that goes fear, but a deeper part that just says, oh, what a relief. I can stop pushing and let myself flow with the river. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Does anyone else have feedback on Pat's remarks, sermon?
I'll just say that, well, first, I really resonated with so much of what everyone has said and felt my understanding expand, hearing everybody. And I've always loved them. Well, for the last many decades, I've really loved the song, "The Ocean Refuses No River." And for me, the relief of letting this little individual river of me surrender into becoming one with the ocean, which is a way I imagine what happens when we leave the body. One version of that. And and that's what came in the reading of the Tao too. And it's been a lifetime of surrendering the other force, that's the ego wanting to be important and to, take care of things because there's fear running the ego. And so on a more individual daily level, I'm constantly working to surrender this ego-driven impulse to get more done, to do better, to achieve more, to do all these important things I should be doing, and to surrender to being present and resting in God, and still being able to get things done, but from that bedrock, like the other poem was saying, from bedrock. And one last thing is, last night Gabe and I hosted Manouche for dinner and a game, and it was a cooperative game called the Abounding River, the gratitude game, and it just seems so relevant here. It's a process of going with the flow.
Oh my goodness.
The river, and being aware of all the blessings that we have, and sharing from the heart with each other rather than trying to beat each other.
Yeah,
and it was delightful, and a good lesson for just living life.
Thank you, Casey. I love that, the vision of a different form of the game, because you're right, it's usually a very competitive form. So gratitude is just so healing. Such a good way to go.
That reminds me, Nancy and I sometimes play Scrabble, and we don't like 7 letters, so we changed the rules. We made it be 10 letters. Each person 10 letters. And then we don't keep score, and we just enjoy the words that each of us create.
Oh, that's so perfect.
Nice.
Scrabble with no score. That's just like, wow, that's surrender.
Yeah.
And I wanted to invite our youngest member, Gabe, here, if you would like to share anything, even if we can't see you.
Thank you kindly for the invitation. I prefer to keep an inner dialogue.
Okay.
Sure.
Thanks for being here, Gabe. I'm very grateful.
Of course.
Okay. I think we are going to, if there's no one else who would like to share, we are going to now listen to some music by Rising Appalachia, and then we will close with a blessing.
Wise men say that rushing is violence, and so is your silence when it's rooted in compliance. To stand firm in loving defiance, make Archer alliance, give voice to the fire. Move people to the beat of the wind, gather yourself and begin to dance the song until it ends. We are winners, champions of the light, forming in numbers and might. Keep the truth close in sight. And woman, medicine man, walking with grace. I know your face and I trust your hand. Medicine woman, medicine man, walking with grace. I know your face and I trust your hands. Find your teachers in the voice of the forests. Unplug, you can't ignore this wisdom of the voiceless. Remedies are bountiful and surround us, from the garden to the farthest. Prayer made of stardust. Find your healing in the music that calls you, the voice that enthralls you. What do you belong to? Eyes out, there's the setting of the sun. Give thanks to each and every one. The lesson is the medicine woman, medicine man, walking with grace. I know your face and I trust your hands. Medicine woman, medicine man, walking with grace. I know your face and I trust your hands. And extending my trap strip back into the messages in action. The art is feeding, stop start the disbelieving, cause the garden holds the shards, the medicine is in the seeds. When we hold tight to our right to protect, and we know our might is tenfold in connection. Our elders hold them bright lights, we protect them. The medicine is evident, the wolf, the hawk, the bear clan. We hold tight to our right to protect, and we know our might is tenfold in connection. Our elders hold them bright lights, we protect them. The medicine is evidence, the wolf, the hawk, the medicine woman, medicine man, walking with grace. I know your face and I trust your hands. Medicine woman, medicine man, walking with grace. I know your face and I trust your hands.
Wow.
Lovely.
Oh my goodness, that was beautiful. Uh-oh, I'm frozen.
No.
No, I'm frozen to myself. Well, I don't see,
There's a metaphor.
right? Well, that was absolutely glorious, and I was dancing all around my house. So I'm just going to go blind here because, yes, I look very frozen to my own self, but I imagine if you can hear me, that's great. I'd like to conclude now with our closing blessing, again by John Philip Newell. May the love of life fill our hearts. May the love of earth bring joy to heaven. May the love of self deepen our souls. May the love of neighbor heal our world. As nations, as peoples, as families, as we surrender to spirit, may the love of life heal our world. And now our Alleluia. So if we want to make a joyful noise, everybody can unmute. But I will go ahead and sing if you would like to share. Alleluia. 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 Hallelujah. 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 Okay. Oh, here, I'm unfrozen. I'm so excited. Well, thanks everyone for joining together today, because this has been absolutely lovely. And